Hey guys, it's Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group, and in today's video, we're going to talk about call recording with voice over IP phone systems. So I got a lot of notes here, so if you're watching this video, I'd encourage you to grab some notes, take a little bit of notes and whatnot, or just sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. So, as you can imagine, we get a lot of requests for people that are looking for call recording for their business by way of their phone system. There are a few different ways or a few different reasons typically that businesses that approach us are looking for call recording, which are typically, they're looking for it for accountability. Say for instance, it'd be a business that I've personally seen a lot of businesses that they're dealing with like high level order taking or very detailed order taking, or they're dealing with getting instructions from clients and they don't want to have to deal with clients or contacts being able to say something like, oh, I never told you that, or we never discussed that, or something like that. So I see a lot of businesses that they typically want to get call recording for accountability purposes, not only for their internal staff to be held accountable with what they may have said they were or weren't going to do, but also to be able to hold callers accountable for things that they may have said that they either forgot or that they're erroneously claiming were never said. Another big thing that we see is compliance. I've worked with many companies where for compliance reasons, they have to have call recording legally. As you can imagine in times of, post or I guess you could say existing pandemic and things like that, and more of a need to, answer the call for healthcare and whatnot, not only in the United States, but globally. I have personally worked with a lot of medical practices of late that they have to have the call recording by law, depending on their state mandate or whatever it is, or their HIPAA compliance mandate or whatever. They have to have call recording for accountability and compliance purposes. The third reason that we typically see, and this is actually one that we use internally, is training purposes. Now, I'll tell you guys, just like I've told our internal staff here at Rich Technology Group, I got better things to do than spy on, previous call recordings of my internal staff. But what we do is I take the call recordings from my line and I let my staff listen to calls of how I handle customers that are looking for the best phone system or the best internet for their business, so they can see how I kind of handle certain situations and best help the customer. And we'll also use it vice versa. Like I may listen to a new trainee's phone calls and basically send them an email and say, hey, here's a link to a phone call that you that was recorded that you did. Here's some suggestions that I have about a couple of things on the call, or how you could have handled this better, or what you did do, that was exemplary or that I really like, or something like that. So training purposes is probably another really big one as well, which we use personally. Call recording, I want to just throw it out there right here, right now, because I get asked this a lot. Call recording is not an included feature with the vast majority of voice over IP phone service providers that I work with. It typically almost always is an extra add-on feature, as we call it, and it usually costs approximately about like $20 to $30 extra per month. One thing that I want to throw out there is that call recording, when you add it, because I get asked this question a lot as well, you do not have to add call recording for every single user. Call recording is what we refer to as like a global feature, meaning once you add the feature to your account, that feature, the function, the capability to have it is available for all users, existing and new users. Let's see here. One of the notes that I had here was a lot of providers will, even though I said that call recording typically costs like $20 to $30 extra per month for the add-on to cover your entire account, there are some providers that, like in their premium tier or their tier that's above like their standard tier or something like that, they may include call recording for the entire account as just one of the additional features that are available in that, premium tier or whatever that they call it. There are two ways that call recordings work. One is called automatic. This is typically the default way that it works with most voice over IP service providers, and then the other way is called on demand. So just to break it down, automatic is exactly as it sounds. Automatic would essentially be recording all day, all the time. That's how our phone system works. The second option, which we do have, but we never really use it, is called on demand. On demand essentially means that you can cut it on and off. Typically, the way that works with most voice over IP service providers is you have like a star, and then a 2-digit number that you dial that gives you the ability to turn it on and turn it off. Now, one thing I want to throw out there is some providers will actually do that function or that feature incognito, meaning you can cut it on and off without the person on the other line knowing that you're doing that. And then there's other providers that it may make a tone or it may make a sound or something that says call recording started, call recording ended, and you and the other party can hear that. So just be aware, if you're going to use on demand, just be aware of how that would work with the service provider that you're using, because some of you may want the person on the other line to know that you're starting a recording. Some of you may not. So just be sure to find out that particular detail if you're going to be using on demand. I want to go into the actual call recording suite a little bit because I get asked for some other features that people think are extra above and beyond, but call recording is actually a suite that includes like a myriad of different features that are all kind of classified as part of the call recording function or package. So let's dive into that a little bit. So first and foremost, there's obviously call recording, pretty self-explanatory, records calls. By default with most carriers, as we already mentioned, it's automatic, but it can also be on demand. The second one is called call monitor. To explain to you guys a little bit of what that is, I'll give you a real world scenario. We recently brought on a new salesperson. Well, I guess it's not that recent anymore. About 4 to 5 months ago. Some of you have probably heard of her, Sunita, who works around us at Rich Technology Group as well. When she was in training, she would use call monitoring. Essentially what call monitoring is it's the ability to listen in on other people's calls within the same phone system, but the person that's on the phone cannot hear you. So what we did was I had her monitoring my calls, listening to my calls of how I work with folks just like you guys that call every single day, every single week, every month, looking for the best deals and also guidance on what makes the most sense for your business phone system or internet. She would listen in on a monitored with a command. She would be able to essentially tap into my line within the system and listen to my actual calls and take notes and things like that and see how I work with customers and how I handle certain scenarios. So that's call monitoring in a sense. Call whisper is the ability to not only monitor, but for somebody to be on the other line, the person who's monitoring, but to be able to talk to the person that's on the call internally. So to put that back into real world perspective, yet again, if Sunita was, say, monitoring my call and she needed to be able to say, hey, Prince, don't forget to ask this customer about this promotion, or don't forget to tell this customer that you'll call them in 48 hours, or that you'll get them a quote within 24 to 48 hours or whatever. I can hear those suggestions being whispered to me on the call or being said to me, but the person on the other line, i.e. the client, the contact, they cannot hear that. So that's called call whisper. And then finally, the fourth feature that is all part of the call recording suite, as we like to call it, is call barge. To put that back into real world scenario, even though we've never personally used it, I get a lot of calls from call centers that not only need call recording, but they want call barge and call monitor. The reason they want the monitor, for obvious reasons, is if they've got somebody in training in a call center, they can listen in on the calls. The barge is great for like training or for companies that fall under heavy compliance like medical or insurance or legal, where you need to actually jump into a call that you've been listening to and speak openly and freely where both parties can hear you. The person that you were listening into on the call that's internal to your business, as well as the client. So we've seen a lot of call centers use it in, say, sales training for call center reps, where they'll jump in and say, hey, Mrs. Sally, I'm really sorry. Bob, who you've been working with on the phone, he's currently in training. Even though he's been helping you and everything has been on par, he mentioned, he said the wrong price about this, or he said something that's not exactly accurate with our policy, and I wanted to correct him. That is essentially what barge is. So again, before we move on, call recording, call monitor, call whisper, call barge. With most voice over IP service providers that I talk about on this channel and that I've seen in passing, that is all part of the call recording suite. You can expect to get those features included. I want to talk a little bit about call recording storage. First of all, any call recordings that are done, it's handled basically, it's automatically saved into the cloud. For example, with the phone system that we use internally, I can go over to my laptop right now, I can log into the administration panel, and there's an actual module that says call recordings. This isn't anything that's specific or unique to our VoIP service provider that we use. This is pretty typical across providers the way I'm going to explain this. But you can go in and see like time-stamped, who was on the phone, the caller ID, the timestamp, everything, the rep that was talking. If it was someone other than you, like an internal salesperson, you can see their extension and their user ID or username, and you can listen to those recordings. That is usually saved in the cloud. One thing I want to be very clear about, and this is something you may want to take note about if you're watching this and you've got your pen and pad like I suggested earlier, is you typically, with most voice over IP service providers, will not get unlimited call recording storage. It works a little differently with some. Like some of them may give you a terabyte. Some of them may give you like 200 gigs. Some of them may give you 500 gigs. Some of them we see that they'll give you unlimited storage, but they will delete so many days, like anything that's over like 120 days or, a year, they'll automatically delete that so that they don't fill up their servers. So that's something to be aware of. The only reason I bring that up is because for a lot of companies, it doesn't matter. For us at Rich Technology Group, we don't care if we lose recordings that are 6 months old or a year old. But I understand for some of you out there watching, you may fall under some guidelines or some compliances or laws where you have to keep those recordings. That brings us to point number 2. There is typically a way with most any legitimate or any reputable voice over IP service provider for you to download your recordings to an external source, like directly to your computer or to an external hard drive or something like that. You can also, with certain IP phones we've seen that have USB ports, you can also have those recordings automatically download to like an external hard drive that's connected directly to your phone. We're not going to get into the technicalities of all that because that differs by phone manufacturer and by voice over IP service provider. But I'm just trying to give you guys just kind of the general gist of call recording and what's available and some things to be aware of. Let's see here. Now that we've covered all that, pretty much going to wrap up this video, but I want to go into some closing comments and just some final thoughts for you guys before we call this one a quits. First of all, you need to decide, do you want to automatically record calls or do you want to record calls on demand? As I already stated earlier in the video, most voice over IP service providers, they automatically record every single incoming and outgoing call. On demand is usually something that you have to enable in the system. Also, not every single provider includes call recording on demand in the call recording suite. So just be sure to check whoever your voice over IP service provider is, or if you're working with us on a quote, we can check for you to find out if on demand is included with the regular call recording or if that's going to be an extra charge. Because with some providers, it is an extra charge to have on demand versus just always automatically recording all incoming and outgoing calls. The other thing that you need to figure out in closing comments is how long do you want to store these recordings? And do you have to by law? Is your business under any guidelines that requires you to store these recordings for so much time? If so, you should check with the VoIP service provider and find out from them, how long do they keep the recordings, and is that in line with your requirements that you may need to keep recordings? If it isn't, maybe you should look at another provider or find a way to externally download those call recordings so that you've got them for legal or compliance reasons or whatever that may be. Last final point that I want to throw out there in closing is call recording is lawful in most states. I'm not an attorney, so nobody quote me on any of this, but I'm going to say this to the best of my knowledge. Call recording is lawful in most states in the United States. However, many states mandate that you have to notify the caller that they are being recorded at the time of the call. This is the reason why when you call into a lot of phone systems, you'll hear this calls may be monitored for quality assurance, or this call may be recorded for this reason or that reason or whatever it is. Most of them are doing that just to let you know so that they're in abidance with their local or state laws that, hey, this call is being recorded and monitoring, you've been warned. So just make sure that, I don't know what state or city you're in, but I would encourage you to get with an attorney or get with somebody that you may know that knows the laws and find out what you have to do in your system so that you are recording calls within, the legal limits and things like that for your state, city, or ordinance. So anyways, this wraps up the video, Call Recording Explained. If you're watching this video and you've got more questions or concerns about call recording, for a potential provider or something like that, or you're interested in entertaining the service or new service that has the type of call recording, whether it be automatic or on demand that you need, feel free to reach out to me. We represent all voice over IP service providers in the United States. Our service is also free, our consulting service, and we can pretty much always get you better pricing than if you shop direct. If you'd like to just pick my brain, pick me and my team's brain and just talk to us about your business phone system needs and also ask questions about the different types of recording out there and see what phone system not only has the recording you need, but also has the other features that you require to properly run your business communications, let me know. Again, our service is free and we're here to help. If you found this video helpful, please like the video, subscribe, and also hit that notification bell because we upload new videos every single week. Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group, your go-to guy for the best deals on business phone and internet service in the United States. I'll catch you guys again in the next video.